Wes and I needed a makeup date this last weekend. We had our disconnect date early January. We had not had another date since. We went on one this last Saturday night, and we saw firsthand the power of identity and what giving identity and showing kindness to others can do, and what happened for us where we were even able to do that. And so today we're going to be talking about identity. We're going to be talking about the state of our world and how we can show up for each other, but how we first need to show up for ourselves so we can do that. Because I genuinely think that identity is where we can heal the world. And so welcome to the Connection Codes podcast. This is the podcast where we break open those emotions that take us from being disconnected to connected in our relationships and in ourselves. I am your host, Tiara Wages, and joining me is marriage and family therapist, clinical sexologist, Dr. Glenn Hill, and his incredible wife, Phyllis Hill. And together, they have founded the Connection Codes, which is the guide to human connection. And we're so glad you're here.
Hello, world.
Hi, friends. So even just as you were doing this introduction, oh my word, I keep thinking of something that we've talked about before in the idea of an identity meter. And the concept of that is that I don't know that we're always aware. Are we giving identity or are we taking it away? And what we kind of first started talking about before we pushed record was kindness, which that can almost be right now in a buzzword, be kind. And that sounds good, but when you start describing it as in a gaining of identity or a losing of identity, I feel it differently in my body.
Yeah.
Like I feel it because that's what's interesting. I can say, well, I am being kind, but if the person is losing identity, that's what matters. That's the identity meter that really matters. And I was telling Glenn this morning, I really struggle with social media. I feel like that so much of it is what I see is that people put a judgment on something and then they put it out there in their posts. Kind of like maybe somebody said something and then you kind of add on to it your version of it or your little 3 sentences or maybe just 1 sentence. And I often think, if we just said, does that promote kindness? The person probably who wrote it, who may be just really just full of anger. I'm just going to say that because I'm really angry. But is that communicating kindness or just a judgment about that person or that situation or whatever? I think it's more intense when we say, are the people reading this, is this bringing identity or is this just robbing people of identity? It feels different to me. Like it's a bigger story. It's a bigger thing. And we just recently did a Connection Codes event and someone, just a precious person, an older gentleman came up and had just tears in his eyes. And he said, and he's a famous artist and impressively famous artist. And he said, my wife walked out, I don't know if it was 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And he says, I get it now. I just listened. Like I just was really, I'm not going to say much. I'm just going to listen moment. And he said, she lost identity.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
Yeah, and he said, I've never understood why.
Why she walked
10
out.
years.
Wow.
He said, I never had a clue because we had everything. You know, we were wealthy and we were jet setting and we were just having such an amazing life. And he said, she just left. And I never understood why. And he said, seeing the Connection Codes presentation, I get it. And he just wept because it was an overwhelming moment. But I mean, it was great and it was awful. Because he realized.
Break it down more because if you're a new listener and you're like, I don't even understand how you're using this word. Can you break it down? How do you define that identity, that kind of identity?
Yeah. In the Foundations Masterclass, we just talk about that identity is that sense of self. We say getting answers to the questions, do I matter? Do I matter to you? Do I have value? Do I have value to you? Significance to you? Am I good enough? Am I good enough for you? And if I don't get yes answers to those questions, I begin losing the sense that, I matter to her. And if it has to be a yes answer, not a not no. So if I say to you, do I matter to you? And you're like, yeah, I think so. Well, you didn't say no, but you didn't say yes. And I didn't hear an emphatic yes.
Can you slow those down? Okay. So do I have value?
Do I matter?
Do I matter?
Do I have significance?
Do I have significance?
Yeah. Am I good enough?
Am I good enough? And like with this gentleman that came up to me, he just realized that his success in his career, he thought it was enough for both of them, as in, well, if I'm famous, you're good, right? But she did not feel like she had any significance or any value, or in comparison was even good enough. It's
or
not.
Did she exist? He obviously exists.
Right.
He's a friggin' celebrity and he's jet setting and everybody wants to see him and meet him. Well, he's thinking, oh, babe, you're with me. You're right beside me. So we are in this together. We're partnered, but that's not what she was.
Like it was enough. See, again, we may think we're being kind, right? But if that person is losing identity, we've got to slow down and examine either how we define kind. Like I almost feel like in that situation, he thought it was just enough that he was famous. Like as in, but we are together. But he realizes now she lost a sense of self. She lost that she had any value. And he didn't know this language, so he didn't know how to speak into that. He did not know how to check on her to make sure she wasn't getting lost in his fame. I think about that, like in our everyday lives, if we ask ourselves, how are we doing? And if we want to call it, how are we doing on the scale of kindness? But then also, how are we doing with that identity meter? Can you look out and all over and see, is what I'm saying, is that person losing or gaining identity? And there's everyday situations, whether it's a phone call or going to a restaurant or a store, where we're encountering humans all the time.
Surely somebody's done this research. Well, we'll just do a poll here. If you went out and asked 100 people just on the street, are you a kind person? So think of the percentage. I think 95% of the people would say yes.
Yeah.
Where are all these unkind people that we're experiencing, that we're hearing about? And I think because most people are living inside themselves, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm a kind person. Well, where the heck are these unkind people? I mean, if you don't think there's unkind people out there, get on social media. I mean,
which is carrying over into everyday life now. That's the issue.
It is
that on social media, you can sit behind a computer and say whatever you want to, and even under fake profiles. But it's become such the norm that now it's being carried into restaurants. It's being carried into gas. Like everywhere we go, people are just mean to each other.
Because we're each only one psyche. People may think, oh, no, I do that behind a computer, anonymity. You're only one psyche. That you can't completely separate those.
Yeah.
Well, hadn't you thought about that?
Well, and we're also just living in very divisive times. And so I even think about, we had Sharon McMahon on our podcast back in November, and she has a huge platform sharing. She was a government teacher. So she shares facts about the government. And how many people have written her hate messages, death threats. And so often she'll be like, I look at their profile and they'll be faith-based people, people that have something about Jesus, something about Christ follower in their headline. And I hear that from creators all the time. So yes, when you ask people, are you kind? Their answer is going to be yes. But are you showing up in spaces, giving identity, are taking identity.
Yeah, not just perfect, but maybe the better question is, do people experience me as kind?
Right, right.
That's all that really matters.
Yeah.
I mean, I can sit in a room by myself all day and say I'm a kind person. Do people experience me as kind?
Yeah.
So, were you going to share those scenarios? Because I just thought those were so amazing.
Our date this weekend?
Yeah.
So Wes and I went out Saturday night and got to the restaurant. I made a reservation and we ended up showing up early because we were hungry. But we were like 45 minutes early to this reservation. I mean, it was significantly early.
Wow.
And the host, he said, well, I can see you at this table. And the table was not comfortable. Wes is 6'5", large man. But there were several booths open. And he said, would you mind sitting us at one of the booths? And they're like the cool U-shaped booths.
Oh.
And the guy said, well, we reserve those for parties of 4 or more. And I was like, oh, no worries. Just, okay, no big deal. And the guy looked at him. He was like, whoa. Like he was a genuine shock. It's like, you just handled that response so well. I was like, of course. Yeah, no big deal. I totally understand that. He said, no, I'm going to give you a booth. And then we even tried to argue with him again. Like, no, you really don't have to give us. He goes, no, you are just so nice to me. I am giving you this booth. He was blown away by it. And then he goes, okay, your waitress, Bailey, is going to be here in just a minute. So
Can I interrupt you and interject?
Yeah.
Wes didn't go out and wash the dude's car.
No.
He didn't pick up his laundry for him. It's just stunning to me to think, wait, that's so freaking fundamental. That's so, I mean, I adore Wes and you. I think you're amazing. But come on. It's not like you brought the guy a dozen cookies or something.
Yep.
That's just startling.
Yes. And then the waitress comes up and Wes was like, hi, Bailey. And so first, saying someone's name is identity giving. That is a huge way to give identity to anyone. I always try to say names at grocery stores. Anybody that has a name tag on, I always try to say their name. My mama taught me that. But she was like, what? How do you know my name? No one has ever said her name before. And Wes was like, well, the guy told us your name.
Yeah.
And she was like, taking our order. We were debating between two things. This isn't expensive. It's not. And we went on a nice date. And she brings both out. And she was like, yeah, you were debating this one. It's a gift from us. We just want you to try it. And it was solely because we gave her identity. 30 minutes later, the chef comes out. And she's like, hey, do you like to try new things? I have something I'm testing in the back. And again, like, this is a very upscale restaurant in Nashville. And she brings us free food. We got 2 free food, like multiple things brought to us. And it was only because we gave them identity. And even as we left, the host came up to us again and he was like, oh my gosh, thank you again. Like, your kindness just meant so much.
Wow.
And we saw the chef as we were like, we know her name. Hey, Hannah, thank you again for that. Because then it started that cycle. Once we were kind to him, he was kind back to us. Well, that makes us want to be kind to the next person, which then made her be kind back to us. And that night, it just showed me what an amazing space we can all operate in.
Wow.
When we see each other.
Wow.
When we can hold that space. And they were genuinely blown away that people would just talk to them like they had purpose, like they had significance. Because again, we live in a society where we keep our heads down. Oh, my steak is wrong. Oh, this is wrong. And not that you can't send food back, but there is also a kind way to do it. But we live in a society where people are so quick to place the judgment or get angry and not the emotion of anger, but show the behavior of anger, where we're at war with each other. And I don't mean like big, but we are like these daily wars with each other.
Okay, so now do the other side of that.
The other side of that.
If Wes and Tyra are driving to the restaurant, Wes is upset with Tyra, Tyra's upset with Wes, or one of them thinks the other one is, or whatever. They show up, they're dysregulated. I don't know. We're never told what would have been, but that's a completely different world. And we say a lot with the connection codes, you and Wes changed the world. Not the whole world, but you changed the world in that setting, in that scene, as far as how things could have played out. And that's my dream for everybody, certainly for our listening audience, to go, okay, I can make a difference today. I'm maybe not going to solve world hunger, but I'll make a difference today. And you think about it, in this restaurant, I don't know how busy they were, but if everyone did that, oh my gosh, how would that evening have gone? And who knows, then Bailey goes home to whatever, her mom, her parents, her husband, her whoever. Well, then Bailey helps change the world for that person. And then the next morning, again, I don't know who Bailey is. The next morning, Bailey's kids go to school, and it really does have that much effect.
Yeah.
And if we get that in our mind, but I would suggest that if Tira and Wes are dysregulated on the way to the restaurant, and you're both very kind people anyway, but it does change.
It does.
You're caught up in, well, Wes is mad at me. He doesn't like me, whatever. And it's just tougher. And so that's our whole goal, is to help people to live in regulation. And the human condition consists of continually getting out of regulation, getting dysregulated. I'm not worried about that. What I'm concerned about is how quickly we get back to, because stuff happens. Welcome to planet Earth. So we're not going to eliminate all pain. We're not going to eliminate all stressors. That doesn't happen. But what we do once we experience that pain, whether it's an external stressor or relational stressor, and Wes and Tira know what to do.
Yeah.
And so now they show up as remarkably kind people, and you're celebrities in the Connection Codes world. But, it's not, well, the chef came out to see you because,
Totally.
you're Beyonce.
Yeah.
No, the chef doesn't even know who you are.
Yeah.
They just know this is weird. We have a kind person in a restaurant.
Yeah.
It's not like Wes and Tira went out and washed everybody's cars. They were just kind.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? That's a beautiful, sad commentary on what's happening societally.
Well, it has shown me the power of the identity piece of this. And that's actually the piece that we get the most backlash on, especially from faith-based communities, because we use the word identity instead of sense of self. And so we've had several churches be like, yeah, we're not going to use your curriculum because you talk about identity. But identity changes the world. Identity changes everything when we can actually see someone, let them know you matter. You have significance. You have value. I see you. That is where we can all grow and become much better versions of ourselves. And that starts in our home for sure. Like when we can do that with our partners, when Wes walks in the door, and actually, Phyllis, I need to process this with you. This morning you walked in. Typically I'm like, at the door getting your stuff, and I was in the middle of sending an email, and probably about 30 seconds after you were in the house, I realized, oh my gosh, she walked in and I was looking at my computer. I've not even looked up at her yet. And I was hit with so much guilt over that, because those small moments give identity to people. And for us to be able to do that with our partner, well, then yes, that equips them to now go into their workplace. And to do the same. And I think that's a huge part of where we're missing each other.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you brought up if you're listening and you haven't read the book, watched the masterclass, and you're going, okay, I've never heard identity used as a word the way y'all are using it. So you may already be really confused, because you brought up this piece that for many faith-based people, they've only heard the word used, identity in Christ.
Yeah.
And so to talk about an identity lost with each other, it's like, wait, that's never how I've been taught. So let's slow it down so we can make sure that you're not getting lost right there with that piece. And I love when we are speaking to a large group of faith-based people, because, and I love the way you always bring up the grandchildren, but when you think about our relationship with God, our identity in Christ, you go, okay, that is secure. Now, some of you may go, oh, that's actually where I struggle, because I don't know, I don't feel worthy of God's love and things like that. So yes, I get it.
I don't identify as Christian. Yeah.
Right. But also, especially I think in the faith-based world, we can doubt God's love of us.
Yeah.
And so I'm always trying to believe he loves me, and it's okay. That may be a struggle, just that right there, if you are, but we say very confidently that that's a secured relationship. You and that identity in Christ. And I think that a lot of churches have spent a tremendous amount of time with on stage, kind of even through worship, is connecting us to God and connecting us to Jesus that way. And what we often say is everywhere we go, which we travel all over the world, we see that done really, really well through worship. What we're talking about is what happens off stage, what is happening out there among the people. Do these people know they have value? Do they know they exist? Do they have that with each other? It's about each other. And if you go, well, okay, I'm struggling with the context of the word identity with each other. You go, okay, if you're faith-based and you understand, or you read the Bible, you go, oh, it talks a lot about relationship, about each other's relationship. So there must be some value there. It must matter how we treat each other. And it's, we are going kind of yelling, screaming from the mountaintop. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It does matter how we treat each other.
Yeah.
And we focus a lot on marriage, but take it out of that context and it's human. It's relationship everywhere. You are in relationship with humans everywhere. Even if you never leave your house, you're still in relationship, whether it's through a Zoom call, whether it's through a phone call, whether it's to answering the door because Amazon is delivering a package or DoorDash is delivering your food. That's a human on the other side. And it's how we treat humans. Or if you just simply get on social media or another platform and you are throwing arrows, well, that's what people feel it. People read it and feel it. And so the identity piece that we're talking about today has to do with each other, with that relationship, in my relationship with Glenn, do I feel value? With my relationship with Tira, do I feel like do I have significance in my relationship with her? So I wanted to slow the train down to make sure that you as the listener are getting how we're using this word. And I think going back to the very beginning, we may go, oh yes, I'm kind. And it's okay. I guess that's good that you think you're kind, but if there was an identity meter on the forehead of all the people you've encountered today, was your interaction boosting their identity meter or was their identity meter going down? Because sometimes I think, and I know I'm guilty of this, and some people will even say, well, I'm not a people person. And it's, we all started off people. We had to, we had to survive.
And I have a kid that tends to be more shy, especially around new people. And I've seen us get into the pool, at our neighborhood, and a little girl run over, be like, hi, you're here. And then that child, essentially still face them from fear, from shame, for whatever's happening. And so I can honor their experience of the emotion, but also teaching them the power of, this person is losing identity with you. And that is really detrimental to that person's sense of self. And so there is this line of, yes, if you're not a people person, process your pain, but we don't have to do that at the expense of others. And so building that muscle at the same time of how am I acknowledging people when I was going to say steps out of my house, but also inside of our house. Some of the people we treat the worst are the people inside of our house. How am I letting them know that I see you and you have worth to me?
Yeah, and we kind of present this in Foundations fairly clearly, but we've debated over the years 100 times whether we should use the word identity or not. It's kind of entrenched now. But the reason we've stuck with that is because it's so significant. And it cues me in. If Phyllis says to me, ooh, babe, I lost some identity when you said that, I set everything down. So this is not her just saying, oh, I don't like that flavor of ice cream. It's a trivial matter. No. When she says identity, I'm like, okay, hold on. As Phyllis says, slow the train down, stop the train. It cues me in that this matters. This is significant. This isn't just some casual passing comment. But also, And again, we get pushback from people, which is fine if it doesn't work for them. And I don't care. I mean, they can do what they want. But it's such a silly thought to present that, oh, no, I'm not affected by anybody ever with anything because I know God loves me. That's bizarre. Really? I am completely unfazed ever. Phyllis can treat me like crap 50 days in a row. I'm secure with God. Doesn't make a bit of that's just not true. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And to even consider that possibility, I mean, that's just non-human. Yeah. If I'm unfazed by her, either I'm a cyborg or she doesn't mean much to me.
Right.
So if I never lose identity with her, our relationship must be pretty something shallow, non-existent, dysfunctional, that she has that little effect on me. That's weird. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And as Phyllis mentioned with our grandchildren, if one of them comes in and says, oh, my cousin doesn't want to play with me, she's mad at me. And if I said, oh, it's okay, I love you, my grandchild would look at me like, what? I wasn't talking about you, Papa. I'm talking about my cousin. I'm like, oh, don't worry about it because I love you. That makes no sense. That has nothing to do with this precious little girl's relationship with her cousin. And for me to constantly just reassure, no, I like you. I love you. I think you're amazing. So my cousin's mad at me. Doesn't want to be my friend. Doesn't want to play with me. That's just real. And that's true for all of us every day, all the time.
We were out of town speaking at an event, and the day that we got there, we went from the airport right over to the office, and the outdoor door was locked. So we had to wait for someone to come and open the door. And the person that came and opened the door, I mean, she lit up like, she was our long lost best friend. And I don't even know if I should say this, but almost like, I don't need it. I don't need people to like me, or I don't need people to speak to me. I'm fine. I don't know where that even comes from, but that is so like when I encounter someone like her who just lights up and is, I am so excited you're here. And we've just been waiting for this event, and she just gushed. I just wanted to be around her.
Yeah.
And I learned her name super fast.
Yep.
And it's like every opportunity I wanted to call her by name. And so many times during just that first day, and I saw her every day we were there, but the first day she was like, can I get you anything? And then even just kind of going out of her way to say, hey, if you need to put the stopper in the door so the door wasn't locked. Like she went out of her way to say, can I simplify anything for you in this moment? And it stood out so much.
Yep.
And I thought, oh, wow, it feels so good. And we probably encountered a dozen people that very first few minutes that we got in there, that we walked in. Her greeting was such I felt like if I had an identity meter, it went to the top. Ding, 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 ding. It was like, I almost think of the county fair when you hit the hammer and it goes all the way to the top, and it's that. That's what I experienced with her. And there were others who said hi, but man, the way she responded. And then it was interesting how much I was drawn to her for multiple, every time I saw her, and she volunteered. So she was at this and that, and very much an active part of the whole weekend. Well, by the last event, when we were all together, I said something in front of this group of 300 people, just how much that meant to me, like how big of a deal. And the way the crowd responded, and they clapped for her and she beamed. And then we were together at the very last thing we did. And it was a smaller event. And she came up to me and she said, it meant the world to me.
Yeah.
It meant the world to me that you, in front of everyone, shared that. And I thought, wow, see, I was blessed by you. in such a big way.
Mm-hmm.
I felt so much identity from how you treated me,
Right.
how you greeted me.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just flowed out of me to say something in front of 300
Where
people.
her identity was going ding, 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 ding.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, what a bizarre thing if I'd been there with Phyllis and said, oh, no, babe, God loves you. You shouldn't receive an identity from this woman because God already loves you. And Phyllis would be like, what? This has nothing to do with whether or not I believe God loves
These
me.
are two separate things.
This just felt great.
It is two separate things. And it also, I think, it stands out so much to me. And I just wonder, you as a listener, like, when was the last time you showed up and someone was that excited to see you?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a stranger, like at an event. I'm saying, when was the last time at a family function, at work, or at where you go, where your community is? When was the last time someone was that excited to see you? And I wonder how many of us can even remember or say, oh, yes, this was so huge. Or last night I surprised Glenn and I told him that I'm taking him to Cancun next week. And I mean, it was another one of those identity meter moments, right? Where it just went ding, 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 ding. Like he was just like a little kid who's been told they're on their way to Disney World. Like he was so blown away and so excited. And I think, how often are we? I mean, that's a bigger deal. I know that. That's a surprise trip that I did all the planning for and talked to a bunch of people to make it happen.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking back to the restaurant. That was for you guys. That was that's not an elaborate, that doesn't cost a ton of money.
Yeah.
That was just the simplicity of your actions. That just flowed out of you guys. That wasn't even a premeditated, like,
No,
hey,
not at
Wes, let's be really kind when we go in here. That was not, that's just flows out of you. And I believe, like, the woman that was at the office that greeted us that just flows out of her, right?
Yes, I will say though that, because then I could hear people be like, well, that's just not who I am. It very much can be like a muscle that you build, and not to say you have to be super bubbly and all change your personality, but just to say their name. Phyllis, for you to then say this woman's name multiple times, and I can see that you have thoughts.
Well, I don't want to cut you off.
Oh, it's okay.
It's so important.
But it is simply just acknowledging and looking at someone in the face, holding the door open for them, not getting upset if you can't have the seat that you want, just acknowledging humans.
Yeah, we may have to talk to the head of our R&D department to move up the identity meter idea, because I think that would change things for people. If I could look at you and see your identity meter going down, that's Connection Code's protocol, that we help people that are in need, we help people that are vulnerable. And if I could see that, because I adore you, I care so deeply about you, but if I actually saw, oh, whoa, she's losing identity, the number one fundamental, foundational, most pressing human need, and to say, oh dear, what's happening here? I'm missing something, because I'm not trying to be a jerk to you. I'm not trying to harm you, but you are losing identity. You are losing that sense of self, sense of value. And I would tune into you so much faster. And we don't have those meters on people's foreheads, so we have to say it. And so for Tira to say to me, ooh, Clint, I lost some identity there. I felt some pain when you said that, whatever that is. And of course, that's the huge thing with the Connection Codes. We're just trying to get people to say it. Rowan and Malachi, our two youngest grandkids, they say it. First time, every time, anytime, all the time. They never hesitate. They convey it. Well, that's our coding. We're hardwired that way. And there's not going to be a birthday where we sit them down and say, happy birthday, buddy, you're 6. That's it. No more conveying authentically. No more conveying vulnerably. Of course not. I want them to, their whole lives, to be able to do that. And unfortunately, environmentally, societally, culturally, we do convey to people, stop it. Don't be authentic anymore.
Yeah.
But if we could all just flip a switch on the back of our necks and be the authentic, vulnerable self, it would change so much.
Well, I have a whole nother podcast that I want to do about identity as well, talking about even how we identify ourselves to be, because we also, like, I can receive identity from Phyllis, but I also have this my own identity of who I view myself to be and how much that affects how I show up every day. That's a different podcast topic. But identity is both, because you ask, do I matter to you? But also, do I matter to me?
Wow.
How do I see myself to be? What do I identify as? And right now, we've created so many labels. So many labels for who we all are. And we hold on to that so deeply that if you don't identify as the same label that I identify as, now we're at war with each other. And so that is why this simple idea of seeing each other just as human, as beings, as creating humanity, a huge thing that we're experiencing is the dehumanization of others. Yeah. And that is the literal opposite of identity. And when that happens, that is literally how wars begin. Yeah. And so when we talk about this piece, yes, it happens in these micro moments in our home of me seeing Wes and us planning a special date, me saying the waitress's name. Like those are these little moments. But over time, when we strip humans of their identity, that is the core of how wars begin. Like we look at the Holocaust, we look at what's happening in Israel and Gaza. That is all identity. Yeah. It is all identity. And so I just want to challenge our listeners to slow down and build this muscle, because we are living in like really intense seasons of life. And those little moments can make all the difference. And you get in that cycle of this woman greeted you. She gave your identity meter went off. All you wanted to do was give it back to her. You learned her name quickly. You validated her from the stage. And now you're in this cycle of being seen and seeing. And what a beautiful place to be. Yeah. And so just getting yourself into that cycle.
Yeah, I got to do an event a few years ago with Alfred Gockel who are just these spectacular painters. And Alfred Gockel, I just thought was brilliant. He's German and Duev is French. And so Alfred says that his dad taught him, get to know people from other cultures, because once you get to know them, it's very difficult to drop bombs on them. And I thought, wow, that's intense. If we just would get to know these other people, yeah, fine, you speak a different language than me, you look different than me, you function different than me, but okay, I can't drop a bomb on your house. Yeah. Because I know you. Yeah. And I've hung out with you. I think that's so brilliant. Just get to know humans. And it's very difficult to drop bombs on people once we actually know them, once we actually recognize, oh, well, gracious, Wes and Tira are real people. And I don't know, maybe I don't like them that much, which I do, but maybe I don't. And they have 4 children. Dang, that's going to be tough for me to do something violent that harms them. Yeah, I can't do it. Maybe I just want to hang out with them. Yeah. But I can't do something that's so damaging to them, to their children.
Yeah. I think that's a really great perspective and I agree. I think so much of who Wes and I are is because we traveled so much. I mean, we've been to over 25, almost 30 countries, somewhere in the middle of there. Yeah. And that has shaped us tremendously. Yep. But even today, so many of our listeners are states. We're in the States. And so don't just get to know people of other cultures, which I think is really important. I have friends that are Jewish and Palestinian and Hindu. But yeah, religions. Get to know people with other political beliefs, which I process your pain. Yeah. I hear that. Yeah. Get to know people of other religious backgrounds, other sexualities, like really being able to see other humans. And again, that doesn't mean you have to live life, but just see them, hear what's happening for them, because everyone has a story that's gotten them where they are. I watched a video, hopefully this is on topic. I watched a video, I don't know, last week or something. One of my biggest fears and pains that I have as a mom in 2025 is the gun violence issue in America, and especially in the school setting. And I saw this video, it popped up in my feed last week, and I think it happened maybe 2012. It was several years ago. It's been a hot minute, of this boy in Oregon who brought his gun to school and he was about to shoot up his class. And a coach interjected, got the gun. And the video is of this coach embracing, like literally hugging this boy, just like holding him, speaking life into him. And that is exactly what that boy needed. Yeah. That boy needed it the day before and the day before and the day before and the day before and 10 years earlier. Yeah. And that's where we're missing as a society, is that we're not seeing each other in enough time. Yeah. But even in that dark moment, instead of pushing him to the ground and putting his knee on his back and getting him tied up, he was embracing him. Yeah. And I think if we, in this culture, in this world, if we can do more of that when we're showing up to restaurants and gas stations and public events, that will change everything.
Yeah, and that's, Connections 101. There are actions we don't agree with. We're not condoning. We're not saying, oh, it's justified. It's okay. Not at all. And we can punish behavior, punish results all the time. And I just love the way you say that. He needed that the day before and the day before and the day before. And if we can tune into people, because human behavior is pushed by emotion, whether good or bad, positive or negative. And if these emotions are unprocessed, and we say this all the time, that whatever it is, the affair that happened in April was set up by March, February, and January. And what we do as a culture, and I grew up in this religiously, is you had an affair, you're a bad person. Yeah. I'm not agreeing with the affair. I'm not agreeing with the behavior. I'm not agreeing with the choice. I'm not agreeing with the decision, but I want to find out what happened. And if I just say to the individual, you stop that. Are we in agreement? You never do that again. I didn't change anything. I get it. I changed the affair from continuing into May, June, and July, but that didn't help that relationship at all. So we got to find out what happened. I lost track of my months, but
what happened before?
What happened before that, because that's what led to the detrimental behavior, whatever it was.
Absolutely. And one of the keys.
Let me just say real quick, because it was so interesting to me when we were in Austin at this event. I don't even remember what led up to it, but at one point I said, and I was presenting to people, I want them to get this. And I think we were older than the large majority of the people in the room. I think that's true. We didn't keep tabs. But anyway, there were plenty of older people there too. But I said, I want you to get this at a young age. And I said, I was way into my 50s before I even got any traction in this. And I said, I actually like myself now. The place erupted in applause. Wow. That was not even, I didn't think that was my best line of the week. I thought it was very eloquent and funny. Thank you very much. It was bizarre to me. I was like, what the heck just happened? Because I thought that was just a passing comment. And the whole place erupted in applause, which of course what I'm assuming, conjecturing the audience's experience, but I'm assuming they're just like, oh, shoot. I'm looking at somebody that likes themselves. Wonder what planet he's from, which I can relate to that. And I had shared that I used to say to fellas often, I start every day hoping at some point to claw my way up to zero, whatever that means. And the first time I ever told Phyllis that, she's like, wait, what? Because she had no idea that that's what I was experiencing on an ongoing basis. And now, not that anybody's at 100, I don't believe in that. But now, every day I start my day, I like myself. Yeah. And it feels, to this moment, it still feels weird. Like, you're not supposed, and I grew up with that. You're not supposed to like yourself. If you like yourself, you're just a selfish, arrogant. But I guarantee you, my grandkids, when they're born, they like themselves. Go talk to Rowan and Malachi. They are very impressed with themselves. Even when they poop, they're just like, it's a good day. I pooped. But they're just so impressed with them. Well, we're coded that way. We're hardwired that way. And that's not supposed to change on any birthday.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. And a key to being able to do this, a key to being able to show up and see others is to be regulated yourself. Yep. Just like you mentioned, if Wes and I had been in conflict and we show up to the restaurant, we're not going to be able to respond in the same way. And so we do that by using the core emotion wheel, which is the simple tool that Dr. Glenn and Phyllis created to help us access what's happening in our own bodies. So now we hold space for ourselves and we can hold space for others and their experiences. So we're going to show you what that looks like. It's our free tool. You can access it in our show notes below. Yeah.
Wait, it's free?
It's sadly,
Dang.
I can't tell you the amount of pain I have. It's free today. It may not be free in a week.
Sure.
Because this tool is so life-changing.
Gold.
Yes,
It's gold.
it is gold.
So would you do an issue-specific wheel about the January, I forget what you called it earlier, the date?
The date? Yeah.
Could you do that?
Yeah, I could do that.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Could I have it? Because I like to hold it.
Well, you're not supposed to hold it.
I like to
Crazy,
see it.
Sarah.
I have to look at it.
Oh, you can look at it, but don't
Okay, so I'm
hold
going
it.
back to January, that date night. Oh, so much anger that we ruined a really great date night in conflict with each other. Yeah, so much anger. And definitely shame because we are in this restaurant, a nice restaurant that just opened in Franklin. And I can tell that people look like we're not making a scene, obviously. I would never do that. But I don't look happy. And so anyone that's glancing over at us can tell that there is tension at our table. So I had shame about that and fear in that of, ooh, I am the Connection Code CEO. We can't go in public and have tension with each other. So some fear if anyone picked up on our energy. Some guilt with that. Guilt that it lasted about 45 minutes. But it derailed the whole night. Like we just came straight home. And so guilt that happened. Some lonely in that. What was the loneliness there? Lonely just in the specific moment because Wes had said something that hurt me and he couldn't see. And I was like, how can you not see why this would hurt? And so that's what we kept missing on each other. And so just like lonely, he couldn't see my experience. Sad. The sad, something is missing or damaged. Yeah, just being in conflict with each other is just a really sad space to be. Yeah, it doesn't happen very often for us. And so just definitely sad. Hurt because I was just if I wasn't doing this, I would be running for office. I was approached to run for office in Alabama before we moved here. And I was talking about being in Congress or the Senate and describing a situation. Wes was like, well, that wouldn't make a good senator. And so I felt really hurt because I felt like he was attacking me, that I wouldn't do a good job at what one of my dream jobs would be. And joy, man, I started that date with so much joy. He let me out. And so I went to the table to get us a table. And when he came in, I stood up to greet him and hug him to give him that identity. And he was just so shocked by that because we don't do that. I don't know. I just went above and beyond. And so I had so much joy in the start of that meeting or date and just being with him and being in partnership with him. And then definitely joy that it may have derailed that next hour, but we worked through it. We never disconnected.
Wow.
We had tension, we had conflict, but we never disconnected from each other.
Wow.
And so, tons of joy about that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I just
Wow.
have to say, first of all, a lot of our listeners don't understand the language you just used because you said things like it lasts about 45 minutes. They would pay for a 45-minute conflict.
Yeah.
I know that was true for me. 30 years ago, I would have paid for a 45-minute conflict because our conflicts were days, weeks, who knows how long. You remember it. Well, January, do you remember the date?
It was like the 12th.
Okay. That, again, for a lot of our listeners, because there was also one on the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, or maybe 3 at each. No, this is where you can live. And that's what blows my mind. It's not that we're perfect. It's not that we've arrived. We're pilgrims on the journey, but we actually know what to do. So when Wes and Tira have a miss, okay. And again, 45 minutes for you, you're annoyed. You're just, dang it, that took 45 minutes. Yeah. And that's, I always feel a little bit of sadness when we're at events and stuff because people think Phyllis and I won the relational lottery. We got lucky. Oh, we found the right one. We married the right one. No, we didn't. We didn't marry the right one and we didn't marry the right way. And I don't think there is a right one. We were clueless.
Yeah.
And again, the same with Wes. You didn't know. for years and you cared about each other deeply. You were just missing because you didn't have the right tools. So anyway, it's so exciting.
Yeah, our record is like 530 something days of not disconnecting.
Yeah. And I guarantee you a lot of our listeners don't believe you.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, I can give the dates though. Like, because on that date, because we disconnected November 11th of 2022 and then May of 2023. And during that May disconnect, I was more mad because I did the math on it because I remembered the last one. And I was like, we made it this many days and now we're breaking it.
Yeah.
But
I'm telling you, most people wouldn't believe it.
Yes. I mean, we've had tension. We've had we get dysregulated, but we run to these tools. We know that when we use them, they work. And all of this is found in our Foundations Masterclass. What we talked about today, this identity piece, we talked about it on a global and in a community scale. But let me tell you, my marriage, we are in the best competition of our life of who can give the other person better identity. Yeah. Wes has already texted me today telling me how much he loves me, how much he misses not being with me. Like, we compete with each other. And we are in the greatest cycle of seeing each other because we connect emotionally and we know how to give each other identity. And all of that is laid out in Foundations because what gives your partner identity is specific to them. And so going through those first two modules, it gives you the opportunity to learn your partner because what you're doing, it may not. We have another episode coming out where Glenn did something to give identity to Phyllis, to see her, and it didn't hit with her that day. And so to be actually know, this is what hits for them. Right. Yeah. So you're spending your energy on the right thing instead of burning energy on things that don't matter. Yeah. I just can't tell you enough about this course. It is life-changing. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you actually do have nothing to lose. If you enroll today and try it out, you're like, hey, it didn't work for me, send me an email. We'll work it out for you. We'll give you a refund. But otherwise, you have nothing to lose by enrolling in this course and starting the best cycle of your life.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, if people believed you and they said, wait, what'd you say,
530 something days. I think it's 36.
536 days without a disconnect. What is that? Less than $1 a day? Sign me up. And our whole mission is to convince people that this is real. And if you'd said to me 25, 30 years ago, this is real, I'd been like, shut up, you little snot face, because you would have been really young back then. I would have been annoyed at this little brat who is saying to me, hey, dude, you know that 3-week just turmoil. I mean, pain, every day, all day long, oppressive, strangling, suffocating pain you're experiencing could have taken you like 45 minutes or 45 seconds. I'd have probably punched you in the face because I don't punch little girls in the face very often. Because I would have been like, shut up, that you're being cruel. You know, you're making fun of me, telling me that my week and a half of pain could have been 1 minute.
Yeah.
That's just mean. That's just stupid. And you would have been right. Yeah. And I just didn't know. I had no idea. Yeah. So anyway, for our listeners, and if you are a connection coder, tell your friends. Yeah. Tell 5 of your friends this week. Just tell them you got to make this investment. As far as the dollars of it, it's nothing. Just make the investment. It's just the value of it is it's just indescribable.
Yeah. I mean, it is simple. It's not always easy, but it is simple. Yeah. And just starting earlier, because we're fortunate we were 12 years in when we found it. Yeah. And so being able to do it as quickly as possible definitely can help you unravel so much. Yeah. And we're here with you along the way. Yeah. So thank you for being here. I want to challenge you as you're listening and as you're moving forward. If you're in your car or walking in your neighborhood, wave at the person that you're walking by or like smile at them. Acknowledge that they exist. Hold the door open. Tell your coworker you like their blazer that they're wearing. I'm sure it was a great blazer. I do. I love a blazer. But let people know I see you and you exist. And we thank you for being here. We do all of this because
you need this.
You deserve this. So let's do this.
Let's do this.